What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Facade. I'm your host, Gavin J. Gallagher, and on this podcast, I explore the mental and emotional game often playing out subconsciously, both in your mind and the mind of everyone else in the real estate or property investment market. The key to success in this game is to master your mindset and behavior, to take control of your thoughts, your emotions, and most importantly, your ego. Welcome to the show. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode, and I'm doing something a little bit different today. I'm out for a walk, and I thought I would tell you about today's episode. So, as you guys have probably heard me talk about multiple times, I have got a mastermind. Now, I have an accelerator and a mastermind. Just to let you know the distinction between the two, the accelerator is a kind of a more advanced educational coaching, training, and mentoring kind of a program, and the people that have joined up for that are quite sort of senior people, or certainly successful in their own right. There's a couple of young guys, but they're doing quite well for themselves and they can afford to invest in property, and so they've gone ahead and invested in signing up to that particular program. But in the case of the mastermind, the mastermind is more of a community. There is no educational piece, although I think you do. There's no structure to the education, but at the same time, you have got we're all talking about property on a regular basis, and because of that, you do pick up some great nuggets, and you get a lot of information from the other members and things like that. So it's most definitely got an educational sort of a benefit to it, but it doesn't have the structure. The accelerator that I've created has like a whole structure. I go through fundraising, and I go through how to recruit investors and how to present to them and all that kind of stuff. So that is a much more structured thing. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit here because I don't have notes in front of me to follow. But what I was just going to say is today's talk that I'm going to show you, or that I'm going to play now, is actually from last week's mastermind. And the idea that I have here is really just to let you be a fly on the wall, listening to the kind of conversation that we have every week when you become a member of the mastermind. So what I'm hoping it might do is trigger some FOMO in some of you, and some of you might say, geez, you know what, I would like to be a part of that mastermind. And so if that does happen to be the case, you can go and have a look down below in the notes, and I will put a link to the mastermind, and I'll put a link through to the accelerator. What I usually do with the accelerator is I'll actually invite you to jump on a call with me, because it's important to discuss it before. I just don't want the wrong people signing up to the accelerator and getting out of their depth, or not being able to take advantage after they've come out the other end. So guys, without further ado, this is the conversation from my mastermind group a week ago. I hope you enjoy. So let's do a roundhouse. How's everyone doing? Mikey, start with you. What's going on in your part of the world? And let's hear.
As we all probably know, I went sale agreed and went on contracts to come back. Find it hard to find a deal. Went to look at a house last week, and by the time I got there, I think you've seen in the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It was in the space of 3 hours, like it went crazy a bit. I'm trying to connect with that auctioneer an awful lot, because he seems to get an awful lot in the town. And he was telling me, he said it's crazy. It's crazy how they're fighting over, like, I think it was built in 1968, and he said it needs a full refurb, and they're not even batting an eyelid at it. They're just, we'll just go and start again. Yeah.
Well, don't forget it's obviously you're looking for a deal, but being sale agreed is not the same thing as having contracts signed. So obviously,
I know that.
Don't do anything until
No, I learned that the last time.
Yeah.
So this guy's more positive. As I said, he's been there measuring up and
making all the right noises. Yeah. But did I ever tell you the story of my shopping, my adventure, where I thought I basically agreed terms with to move into a retail unit, and they said, yeah, we'll move in. And I was like, cha-ching, that's the money in the bank. And I was buying this place for 505,000, I think it was. Oh no, it was 495. And with the cost of, the stamp duty and various things like that, I think it worked out at around 550 or something like that. But the guy, the guy basically started to put me under pressure and said, if you don't sign the contract by next week, I'm pulling the deal. And I hadn't got the signed contracts yet back from, but then sent an architect in who I was in college with. And so I rang up his name. What's the story? Like, he goes, oh yeah, I'm fitting out the whole place. Like, and there was a contractor moved into the thing and they started slabbing out the walls and putting up, metal stud partitions and everything. So I was convinced the deal was done. So I went ahead, signed the deal, and then the solicitor, a week or two later, the solicitor rings me and says the contracts have been sent back unsigned and they're pulling out of the deal. And I was like, you must have a different client. You must be thinking about a different client. Like, couldn't be me because they're in the shop fitting it out. And he says, and I rang, says, Gavin, I've just come off the phone. I've been instructed to tell everyone, clear everything out, like take everything back off the walls, just finish the place, leave it empty as we found it. And I was just like, what? And I had gone ahead and I'd signed the contract and I had paid 500 grand to this guy. And anyway, when we thought we had signed up, the value of the property was 1.25 million. And so it was like a huge jump, 750 grand jump just from having that contract signed. So from my point of view, this deal was worth it. The asymmetric risk was basically, okay, 500 grand is what I'm putting in, but I'm making 750. So it seems like a great deal. But in the end, they didn't go in. And I spent 9 years struggling to find a tenant for that unit. And when I sold it, it was in an Allsops auction and I got 136 for the thing. And I can remember thinking, and that's after 9 years of paying interest on the building, empty building, like commercial rates, like everything. And it was one of the most painful things. So the paper, that piece of paper is what everything matters. I'll move on to the next. I'm doing around the house just to see how everyone's doing. So Georgios, tell us, how's everything going for you?
I'm still in. So we're finalizing the plans for the holiday house in Greece. It's in the final ones. So we're going to go there in end of July. So we finalize there from like in person because going back and forth and emails, it's not working very well. It's better to be there. So that's one. And then I'm doing research overall here between Ireland and UK. I'm a bit confused, to be honest, on where should I start. The way that those two markets are, and questions actually overall. And
where to buy?
Was following the conversation over at WhatsApp. Gold for me, really, really good. Thanks everyone.
It's great education to be able to read everyone's comments.
Yeah. So I'm kind of stuck in between on where should I. I'm trying to see what should I like. The one thing that I should focus on to start, and I would like to start looking at properties just to see how would how a simulation of a deal would look like. For me to get the training of it, to see how I would structure a deal, how I would see how the numbers would play out and all that. So this is where I'm at, but I'm kind of in between on where should I start doing that. It seems from the conversations that we're having, this is my perception, you tell me if I'm right or not. It seems that there are more opportunities in the UK or maybe Northern Ireland instead of Ireland at the moment, at least from a sheer volume perspective. Is that indeed the case, or is it just my perception?
I'm going to move on to the next. So, Caleb, tell us, how are things? You're back from your little holiday and you're ready to get cracking again.
Yeah, I was out in Ibiza for 2 weeks. So I don't know, did I come back refreshed or hungover? One of the
Bit of both, by the looks of it.
I'm trying to figure out financing. It's my biggest issue. Just trying to get a mortgage. I struggling to get a home loan, so I might have to pay a bit of
Is
money.
this to buy a third property?
Yeah, basically. So I might have to go the buy-to-let, but even if I do get the buy-to-let, I'm looking at a way of refinancing after, and I don't know how they're going to look at it, if I'll be able to get any equity back, because I don't want to leave, what'll be 60k in, 65k in, 15, 20k to do it up. It's a lot of money for me. So it took me a while to save that. So I'd love an alternative lender that I could maybe put the 60k down, maybe buy the property, renovate it, and then go to Bank of Ireland or someone like that, and then put the mortgage on. That's ideally what I'm looking for. But dealing with these half a million loans, I don't even know the project I could use.
Would you not go for a bridging finance column?
Yeah, I'm looking for one. I don't think any bridging finance in Ireland does smaller loans of like 200k. They're all like 500,000 to 1 million, and I wouldn't know really where to start to even spend that type of money. Seems like.
Callum, let's start with the beginning. Like, have you found a deal that makes sense to go ahead with, first of all? Because from listening to everyone, most people are struggling to find value. So you found something?
Well, I basically was sale agreed on my last deal, and it fell through because I was sale agreed. They said they'd take it. I just couldn't get a mortgage, and that fell through. So now I'm putting all my emphasis on getting financing in place. So at least then I can go to them and I can negotiate and try and lock up a deal. Just say, look, I'm going to ready to move on this. Show them the money. I'd say I might be able to convince them. I convinced the last people to say yes to me. Said I'd move on it really quickly, and I just couldn't. I couldn't move on it quickly, so they just gave it to someone else.
Yeah, well, understandable. Yeah, that's not their fault. And in terms of everyone listening in on the call, there's been a lot of chit chat today on the WhatsApp in the last few days, just about value and stuff. And so, where you are looking, you see some value still.
Yeah, well, what I'm looking for is just a 3-bed with 2 windows, and I'm going to try and make it into a 5-bed. I think that's the sweet spot. I think you can get a property at decent value. I see them occasionally, and they'll always cash flow if you get a 3-bed and you make it into a 5-bed. So that's what I'm going for. Don't all fucking put the search on now, but
they'll all be in Castlebar looking around.
Yeah, I'm looking for anything with a hospital nearby. Obviously, I'm looking at Shannon, I'm looking at Castlebar, I'm looking at Sligo, and they're my main 4. So,
yeah. But I think it's good. It's instructive to the rest of the group, like who are kind of convincing, listening to the comments and maybe saying, look, you got to be careful about, making up your mind that there is no value and you can't find anything. If you convince yourself that that's the way the market is, then you'll just kind of like stop looking, and you'll only kind of basically convince yourself not to bother. And so, like, I'm of the view that no matter what the market is doing, you should be looking, because you never know what you might stumble upon. But it's not always. It doesn't mean that you'll find one, but it means that at least you're keeping the kind of the eyeballs open and you're kind of looking.
But I think everybody's looking for everything. They're looking for cash flow. They're looking for capital appreciation. They're looking, like when I started investing nearly 30 years ago, you were told that back then that it would take 15 years to really realize your investment. And I think everybody's looking to make a fast buck quick. It doesn't happen in property. It's a slow process.
Yeah, and I think that's good advice, Mary. I think people, they have money burning a hole in their pocket, and that's probably the worst position to be in, because that's when you make rash decisions. And so you do have to be careful. I'm going to move on to Alan. Tell us, Alan, about your experience. Are you on the look for anything at the moment, or are you just...
No, I'm not. I'm not on the look for anything in particular, Gavin. So I'm not. I decided I would kind of complete this the accelerator course first before I'd make any decisions. So I don't really know what I'm looking for, because I'm tied up between, will I go down the residential route or will I go commercial? I've been down the residential route before, and I had a lot of bad experiences. So I had with tenants.
Yeah.
And I won't bore you all with
the violin.
Yeah, the hassle I had, because you've all been through it, look at if I was, I am interested. Maybe if I'm going down this residential route, obviously I go down and look at this HMO thing. The more I listen to you, Gavin, especially in the accelerator, I feel that the commercial side is more appealing to me, to be honest with you. So it is.
That's my view as well, Alan. Yeah. I just like everyone is at the residential side of things, and so I think like there's a kind of a gap there where people aren't really focused on the commercial, and there could be an opportunity there,
But if there was just going back to what Caleb said there, if there was a smaller lender out there, then it might be a consideration for me to go down and maybe have a go at one of these HMOs and see how we get on.
You've seen his you've seen the video that's in the accelerator there from the previous and like I think the HMO model with the slant on it, that you're basically trying to find like a contractor or a guy with a company with a group of laborers, that seems like a more viable option to do it. It's the same thing, but effectively you're getting one company to pay you for all the rooms rather than you trying to lease out each room. That is definitely a model that's more attractive. Instead of you managing, we say you turn something into a 5 or a 6 bed, you're managing 5 or 6 different tenants instead of just having one corporate company paying for the house, and they're paying you a rate per 6 rooms, and they're paying it, and they're paying all the bills as well. Like, so that is attractive from that perspective, and given that you're in the construction industry, it would be potentially that you've got contacts that you could kind of reach out to, companies that you work with and say, are you guys looking for, rooms for lads to kind of, that you can hire in for projects and stuff, and it might be able to open doors quicker that way,
I could even put some of my own lads in it, to be honest with you, or some of the foreign nationals I have Polish guys, but they're starting to dry up now because it's not attractive for them to come to Ireland, because the wages are the wages, but when they pay the going rent, it just eats away. It's not worth their while. They might as well stay in Poland. So the only way I can attract foreign nationals that have tradesmen is I have to provide accommodation. So
that's it. And so you're the perfect example of the model that we're talking about. So you find a house, you turn it into so many rooms, you make it look nice, and then you actually bring the lads in, and that's the way to do it. And then just once you're able to do it for yourself, you can kind of say, this is the model, and you go and say it to others, as long as it stacks up financially. But it seems like a cleaner way to do it than the kind of than the standard HMO, where you've got to manage lots of different people and none of them know each other and stuff like that, On to Donal. Tell us, what are your challenges at the moment, Donal?
So I suppose that we had gone sale agreed in that house in Limerick, but that was a 312. But when we actually done up the numbers for actually that was a full renovation and extension I was going to need. It just wasn't making sense. The purchase price was just too high. So that was like a 1970s house. It was going to be a full gut. You're going to be talking 100 or 150,000 to do it, plus maybe an extension on top of that, or 50. So when we done it up, there was 4 of us in it. It just wasn't making sense with the 4 of us. Like when you're splitting it 4 ways, then at the end, you have all this money invested.
Yeah.
So we're just going to keep talking to that, but we're going to do our own deals. Plus, the 4 of us going together, doing it through a company, we were losing. The plan was to do a HMO, and you're going to lose a lot of your income through because we have to charge VAT. Whereas if we're doing it in our personal name, you don't have that.
Yeah.
So, that's that done. I know it was. So we pulled.
Well, the only thing to bear in mind, like I'm just thinking about if you were to rent it to a corporate that is VAT registered, then that wouldn't be an issue for them. But it's if you're doing it to individuals, then the individuals obviously can't recoup the VAT, so it would be a problem for the individuals.
Yeah, we looked at that, all right, but we were saying to make any kind of decent money on it, you're going to have 10 plus of them maybe
Yeah.
That was the road we were going down. We're saying it was going to be worth the money going on 4 of us together, and the hassle, we'll say, running 10 HMOs. So same, you probably make the same money if we done one each in our personal name. So I think.
Well, the only thing is, I mean, and I take what you're saying, but one of the benefits, let's say you do one each, okay, and you own one house and the other 3 lads own one house each, or the 4 of you decide to take a quarter share each in a house. So you end up with approximately the same amount of money coming out each month. But the benefit is, I mean, obviously it's a bit messy insofar as you can't choose what you want to do entirely by yourself. You have to kind of cooperate with your friends or your brothers or whatever. But the thing is that pooling your resources like that means that, let's say you have a problem tenant and they stop paying rent. One of you ends up with 100% loss of all income. Whereas if you're sharing it, it means that you've only lost 25%, and that because it's pooled. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of de-risks it from that perspective. But there's give and take, obviously, on both sides of that argument.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I know that when I looked at stuff before, there was those holiday rentals in Spain and stuff like that, and you could buy like a house or an apartment or something like that and rent it out. But the alternative was to buy a hotel room in a new hotel that was opening up down in Marbella or something like that. And you basically were paying for a room or like a small villa that would be on the hotel grounds. But your money was pooled with the entire hotel, which was quite a nice model because it meant that if the hotel sold 90% of the rooms, then you were going to get 90% of your money. Whereas if it was just your room that had to sell and somebody decided that they weren't going to rent your one, then you were out of money that month, So just pooling it was nice. But the other nice thing about the model was that the money came into the hotel and it paid down debt and stuff. And then any surplus was left there. And you could fly down to the hotel and you could basically stay in your own place, which was yours. And any surplus that was sitting on the account, you could use it for hotel facilities and stuff like that. So it meant that you had like basically all of the hotel resources like at your fingertips, and you didn't have to. Well, I mean, you're spending your own money essentially, but it was kind of a nice way to do it at the time,
Okay, yeah. Another thing that happened to me there 2 weeks ago was I looked at a house. It was out in the country, but it was a derelict house. It's actually close to where I live, so it was up for, I think it was 80,000 for a long time, but it dropped to 60 last January.
Okay.
I had looked at it before, online, but I said it was a bit high. But when it went to 60, I went over and viewed it, and I rang the estate agents. And this house has been up there 3 years, and so I rang him on the Monday, and he said he's selling it on behalf of someone who inherited it in England, and he said that there isn't much interest there. But so there was the water was on the neighbour's fields. So he said that was going to be an issue, and there was a few other issues. But so I said I was interested anyway, and I figured out I'd get back to him. So I went and I researched the water, and there's a grant there to drill a well. So the grant was going to cover the whole lot. So I had the guy coming out the following weekend, and I rang him on the Friday to say we were just going to go over and look at the site. And he had my name and number and everything taken, but he said it's sale agreed. He said it's gone.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah, you snooze, you lose, don't you?
Yeah, 1 week, 5 days. So.
After it's sitting there for 3 years.
3 years. I said there's no point ringing, telling him anymore. Like I said, it's not going to go anywhere. But
it just shows it. Yeah. Don't make assumptions. Jared, tell us about your experiences.
In Ireland, I actually find it very difficult to find deals in Ireland. I've actually got 3 potential property, possibly 4 between Cavan and Longford at the moment. I'll be viewing them and doing my numbers on those. In the UK, I find it much easier to raise finance, bridging finance, so forth, from this lovely chair here. But just different challenges that you face now at the moment. Anytime I've looked at a property, it's just hopping mad, and especially in the Dublin area. like one in Finglas, asking price 215. I went to book a viewing. The estate agent rings me up and says it's at 241 now. All right.
Mad stuff.
I didn't even leave or get into the car to drive over to Finglas. The estate agent just couldn't be bothered driving to Finglas. That's why, and they just rang me and said it's 241, and I went. The numbers didn't work out after all. So
Yeah.
I was happy in one sense. I didn't waste my time driving over anyway. But and that's one of a couple of them that I've been looking at. Another one in city centre, 180,000. Viewed the property, came home, did the numbers, went, oh yeah, that'll do. Pick up the phone at 207,000, expecting to finish the bidding around 215. I went, no. So I mean, it's those kind of bidding that just turned me off completely.
Of course. Yeah.
And if you go and you find guys on off market, as soon as you say I'd like to buy it, they're gone to a estate agent and it's on the market. So
Yeah.
That's the difficulty I have with it.
It's tough at the moment because it's just so few properties, as Mary was saying. But like one thing I'm curious about with you, Jared, is like, so you're buying in the UK as well, and what's do you have like a long-term strategy in terms of getting the cash back into Ireland? Because obviously you have the currency risk there.
There is a currency risk, but if you I've got to know the guys who's in the currency industry, so I just pick up the phone and have a chat with them, work out what's going to happen this month, what the chances are it's going to be in my favor. At the moment, the way things stands, with the general election in the UK, I'm sitting pretty in that any of the cash I'm going to transfer back from the UK
to Ireland
over the summer period is actually going to work out in my favor.
Okay, well that's
good. And of course with the general election and they're doing the refi over there, it's actually working out in my favor as well. So at the moment, as we speak, touch wood, everything's working out in my favor at the moment.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's just I'm curious, what your view is on it, because like anytime when I invested in the US, like the fluctuations are mad, like, and between one end of the year and the next, it could be a 20% swing, and so your property could have gone up 20%, but you could have lost 20% of that. So you're basically at the very same level as you were because of the currency swing, and so it's, I suppose, if you don't need the money immediately, then you have the luxury of sitting on it and just waiting until the timing is right to bring it back.
You have to treat it like a property when it comes to currencies. You have to kind of there are a few times I'd be looking at it going, oh, I should have hit that go button last night, and those are the elements of it. But sometimes, by actually having a support team and a support network around with you, in terms of particularly getting to know the guys in the currency exchange space.
Yeah.
That once you pick up the phone and have a conversation with and what I mean by having a conversation is when you feel that you're ready to do your transfer, sit down and let them know. So look, I'm thinking of sending over 100 grand. So he'll be able to give you advice. He'll say, look, this thing's going to happen on this day, but I don't suggest you to transfer 100 grand. I suggest you to send over 10, and then wait for a couple of days, and it'll bounce back to its thing. If go better, you can transfer another 10. So it's a way of leveraging to get some extra bit of cash out of the exchange rate. You have to go into the mindset of like an airline company where they're hedging on the fuel and thing. You have to do something similar when it comes to currencies.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I was just wondering how you were managing that risk. David, how are you getting on?
Hi, folks. All good, Gavin. Kind of a lot of business distractions at the minute now, so I haven't been doing much on the property end of things, but still everything set on the daft end of things, still watching, still checking out the deals as they come in, stuff like that. had one there a couple of weeks back in a local town and stuff like that I went and looked at, but it was just like the lads just kind of getting that bit too pricey. Just found kind of Martin's text into the group there this morning interesting, and just kind of it annoyed me because I was kind of like, yeah, that's exactly, you know, I'm seeing things as well for the minute, but obviously conscious as well as what you said earlier is not to convince myself that the deals are not there, like, you know, and just keep it, keep looking and just see what comes up and all that. And it also, like Alan, nothing set in stone, like, you know, I don't have an absolute plan. It doesn't have to be this or have to be that, and I'm open to both commercial and open to residential. And obviously, like you're saying there earlier, with the HMOs do seem to be the only thing that makes kind of financial sense. But like that, there's a bit of work to go along with them then as well, like, you know. So am I ready for that, or am I prepared to do that, like, or not? That's the question. So that's then what kind of swings me towards the commercial. So I kind of, you know, depending on what deal is thrown up in front of me of a day, like, you know, I could go either kind of side of the coin, like, you know. But I said nothing major happening at the moment, right? Like that, but just interested in what everyone is saying there now, especially today. It was a lot of kind of info floating around there and stuff, which was interesting.
Good stuff. Brian, curious, how are you getting on with yours? Is yours all fully let up now at this stage?
Well, yeah, fully let up. So kind of the pressure's off a bit. I'm just sort of enjoying having a bit more time back and sort of just, I suppose, trying to get everything lined up for my next move, but not in a rush to make it. So talked to Brendan Allen last week about tax stuff and just laid out my scenario, and he gave me a few pointers there. I'd say the next investment property would be through a company, and then spin off all the extra money into the pension. And then once the pension hits, I think it's 400k, you can start investing through the pension, and then you're on the gravy train. That's the idea. That's the idea. But you know, I'm not in any rush, and I've got my 9 to 5, and that's, you know, it's stimulating, but it also kind of slows me down, which is good. So doing that, talk to a broker this week as well, again for the same reasons, just to say, okay, this is what I want to do long term. What would be the next step here? So that's it. But like I'm trying to kind of underwrite deals as they come up on Daft as well, just to keep my eye on the ball. So like that one that I shared in the chat today was definitely underpriced at 315, but then I rang the auctioneer's office and it was gone. But there's definitely some stuff around Cork, you know, and I think like in terms of no deals being out there, like it has tightened up. But like I was saying to Mikey before, I think one area that doesn't get talked about as well is pet owners. And you know, I've got a dog. I'm a big pet lover, spend a lot of money on the dog, but I know a lot of people who will live in their car or go homeless before they will give up their animal. And the demand's not, that's a subsection of renters that's not being met anywhere besides the top end buy to let or buy to rents, you know. So like I do have a theory with that if you went to commuter towns outside Cork, the likes of, you know, Mallow and Bandon and Macroom, that are all, you know, between 30 and 45 minutes from the city, I reckon you could charge a city suburb or a city centre rent for a place that far out if you're willing to accept pets, you know. And you know, there's places do it well. Like I was up in Centre Parks in January and we stayed in a pet friendly accommodation, and they have, you know, the couch is the kind of couch that fur is not going to stick to, and the doors are all scratch proof up to waist height and stuff. They're, you know, with a bit of thought put into the design and stuff, you can make it so that the thing will last as well, you know.
Harder, it's funny you say that, because in East Point, we've actually just installed in fact, I must go and share. I created a video. I put out a video for the people that work in East Point to kind of update them on the stuff that we've done to the park. I'll share it in the group just for if anyone's curious. But we put in a dog run specifically because so many people that are coming back from COVID, they bought a dog during COVID, and so they all have a dog now, and so so we have now installed a dog run so that the dogs, you can take your dog over to a park, you know, behind our car park area, and they can just run back and forth. It's like 100 meters, and they can go back and go mad, you know.
Pet owners are also often, they're, you know, two incomes coming in, professionals in their 20s. They don't have kids yet, but they have enough money to keep a dog. They'd be quite attractive tenants on paper, you know. So that's something.
As long as the dog doesn't wreck the place, yeah.
But if you build it out the right way, you know, maybe commercial floors or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
and scratch-proof doors and stuff. There's a way to do it, but that was something I was talking to Mikey about before. So I think there are opportunities, just maybe a bit more left field than what we're used to.
And before I move on, you were looking for a mortgage broker. You found one, did you?
Yeah. I used James Tully, I think his name is. So he's the guy Andrew put me on to. Very knowledgeable, and seemed like a really nice guy. So he's given me a bit of paperwork to keep me busy.
You might share his details in the group, because maybe others would find it useful to have a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
Just Gavin, on the dog thing there, in my day job, we've just finished an apartment complex there in Spencer Place, not far from the Tree Arena, for anybody who doesn't know where Spencer Place is, in Dublin. And one of the things which I never came across before was we had to install a dog wash down in the basement in the car.
Oh, really? Interesting.
It's the first time it's ever been requested from, in all my years in the industry, So it is going to be a thing going forward for everybody, and I think if you have that facility, it's going to add to.
And describe to me, what is a dog wash? Is it like a bath type thing? Or?
It's literally something like a bath. So it is, that has a hot and cold water supply going to it, and a drain facility then off it as well. And you can bring your dog in there, you wash him, and then you dry him. You have your own towels or whatever, or you let him run around. But might be an option for you, Gavin, there in East Point there as well. If people bring dogs to work and they're in the dog run and they want to clean their dogs before they put them back in their car,
Yeah, interesting. I must have think about that. Mikey, you want to ask a question there?
No, it's just on Alan's point. It's actually massive down my area.
Is it?
There's two filling stations have, where the Tree Laundry used to be there. They put it in beside it. They call it Barks and Bubbles. And you literally wash your dog, dry your dog, everything. And my missus is always going there with the dog because it ruins our bat here. So you have no problem with hair and all that. But it is a massive thing down here.
Martin, tell us, you put a really interesting post into the group today, and it spurred a lot of conversation. So tell us.
Yeah, well, it was just kind of what was going on in my head. I was lying in the bed and I was just like, fuck it, I'll fire this up and see, is everybody else experiencing the same thing or whatever,
And certainly there is a few people. It seems different parts of the country, it's more noticeable than others, because there was a few people who came in and said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing. But there was a few others that are still finding opportunities. So it doesn't seem to be, it seems to be pockets of the country that are, like, it seems like they're kind of the hinterland of the bigger towns like Galway. And Mikey, did you say it was down your way? So kind of the Waterford, Carlow kind of area.
Yeah, Waterford seems to be booming, but they're snapped up very fast. But Carlow's, they're gone crazy. First time buyers are gone crazy up.
Yeah, I think it'll probably just get worse here because Dexcom are building a factory up the road there, and like they're creating 1,000 jobs. And I heard yesterday there's another 400 jobs created somewhere else. So that's all yet to come in a year's time or whatever. But the issue I'm having at the moment, I just said I'd throw it at you, is to get around a lot of this. I said I'd buy a property through my pension, and I was on to a pension guy about this. And he was saying to me that, now I listened to one of your videos, how you were saying that a guy was saying, it's not that easy to do it. And this is exactly what he said to me. It's not as simple as doing it, setting up the pension fund is hard. And also I'd advise him more to do it through the PRSA. So it's starting to doubt, does this fella know what he's at? You know what I mean? That's your comment you had. So it was very similar to what I experienced with him,
Yeah. Well, I know that you gotta be careful who you ask, because if somebody doesn't know, a lot of the time, rather than saying that they don't know, they'll just give you their opinion, and so you actually end up thinking that you've got professional advice, but it's
it could be just harsh shit,
But you should. I think it was Christina Buckley that I had on my podcast who had done 2 of her properties through her pension.
Yeah, I listened to that a couple of months ago, actually. So I might give her a bell and see what's the story, because like I know the pension fund, like obviously you can distribute all the profits from the limited company into it and reduce your tax bill, and then the capital gain on it, there's no tax.
There's nothing. Yeah, no tax.
On the PRSA there is, though. You know,
the thing is it has to be an arm's length transaction. So this
I know that,
yeah, you wouldn't be able to manage it yourself. And also the HMO model doesn't. I think from what I can remember speaking to Christina that they don't like the HMO model. It would have to be a standard.
Yeah, and I thought it had to be turnkey. I didn't think you could buy some place and do it up. I didn't think they allowed that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I heard now. But it could be shit. But anyhow, look, at the end of the day, that's the issue I'm having at the moment. So I'm probably going to contact Christina Buckley and see who she recommends.
I spoke with her. I booked a call with her as well, Martin. She's very helpful. Like, you know, she gave me loads of time and loads of info on everything. Like, you know, I think she. I don't know. Does her husband have a building company or something like that?
Yeah, he's a builder or something. Yeah,
or I think electrical company. I think I spoke to. I had an hour's conversation with her as well, and it was well worth having.
So, yeah.
I'm sure she'd have known by this stage what to be going after. I'd say, because she's in that industry a while anyway. I think, isn't she?
I think the way she came around the HMO thing was, I think that she hired out the whole house to a company or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. You're right there, actually. Yeah, that's what I heard her saying. Yeah, she done a corporate let rather than
and one of them anyway. I think the other one, I don't know, she do something different. I'm not too sure, but she's very helpful anyway.
To me, the model would be just going back to what I said earlier, rather than it being a HMO where it's messy and it's a lot of different stuff. If you could do up a house, obviously you have to kind of figure out how you're going to do it when you're not supposed to be arm's length and all that. But if you could have a house that is split up into rooms, and then you go and have it rented to a company that has laborers or whatever, and they're looking for that. So it's just one check every quarter or one check a month for the whole property, including all the bills and everything like that. And that goes through the pension. So it's very, very straightforward and simple. I'd say
that accept that, rather than individually, you know.
Yeah, I think individual, it's not really kind of investment.
The agent has to run it, I think, isn't it? I think.
Which you say?
It has to be an agent that manages it.
Yeah, it would need to be. Sure, we could find somebody in the group here.
Manage loads of them.
All right, thanks, Martin. Brendan, how are you getting on? What are you up to?
So I was missing there for a few weeks. I was on holidays, so I was catching up the last week or so on the past episodes. Well, I've got from before I had some stuff that was pre-crash, so I've kind of got rid of all that. That's all off the books, and I'm just kind of learning from this group a lot, different things, different strategies. And I have a site in Donegal I have planning on, so I kind of made a start on that.
Okay.
Got to start to make the road in and stuff and clear the site just to have it. I don't know what some people would be advising maybe go down the Airbnb route with it, but I think they're going to start getting a bit stricter on that. There seems to be a terrible amount of people now renting Airbnb, especially even around home in Donegal. And it is starting to affect the housing stock, like for locals, like it's affecting it a lot, and I can see some government intervention coming down the line. So I don't know, maybe I could go something smaller, a log cabin and stuff like that. And even if it did get tight on it, I would always have it for myself. But my initial thing is to get in and get the site cleared.
I'll move on to Carl. Carl, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. Got a project underway in Liverpool at the minute in the UK. So it's a 4-bed semi-D. Well, it's kind of a terrace, really, end of terrace, being converted into a 6-bed HMO. So hopefully works are starting next week. I have a PM over there looking after it for me. There's probably about 90 to 100 grand worth of work to do to it to turn it into a 6-bed, 6 ensuite. So,
and what kind of yield are you hoping to achieve at the end of the project?
It'll really depend on what the refurb ends up costing. I suppose I'm looking at it.
Based on your estimate of 90, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking at it in terms of it clearing about £1,100 a month after all the costs.
Right.
and with, it'll be remortgaged onto a yield-based mortgage, a commercial valuation. So I don't think we'll get all the money back out, but hopefully there won't be too much left in it. So I'll keep you up to date on how it's going as we go through.
I'm interested to know how guys that are based in Ireland doing stuff in the UK are getting on, because between yourself and Jared, and it's interesting just to hear the experiences, because there's so little stock in this country that going across the water seems like a kind of an option for a lot of people,
Yeah, well, this is bought at auction, and look, there's auctions every 2 months, and there seems to be plenty of stock there. There's stuff that, like, this house was sitting in probate for 7 years.
Wow.
So I don't think there was anybody in it for quite a long time, but there seems to be these kind of houses coming up regularly. So from my experience, it's a bit easier so far to get hold of those type of properties there.
Mikey, you wanted to ask Carl something?
Yeah. Carl, what brought you to Liverpool? Is there much research? Or?
Yeah, well, I had a guy source me a rent to SA over there. So I've had that since the 2022, just to test the market. So it didn't cost much to get into. It went really well. It's still going okay. This year's a bit slower. But it's more kind of dip the toe in and see what happens. And then move to HMO. There's massive demand. There's massive regeneration going on over there. And it's more just kind of, it's steadier than the Airbnb, because the Airbnb can be up and down. And the ultimate plan with the HMO is get it revalued, pull the money out, and then if it's proving difficult to run, like, we could always give it over to a charity, or the council will take it and they take care of the bills, and it's a lot less involved. So we'll see how it goes.
You have a couple of exits potentially.
Yeah, I actually read that Liverpool are trying to regenerate a lot of parts of the city. That's why I asked that.
I think I spoke to a guy on my podcast about a year, maybe a bit longer, but his name was Toby Mancuso, I think it is. And I remember, I think it was him anyway. I could be mistaken, but I asked him. He was doing stuff in Liverpool, and he was talking about the parts of it that are kind of on the up, So it was interesting that you're there now investing,
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll look him up and see what he has to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find the podcast and just make sure that that's the one. But I'm pretty sure it was him. Yeah. Anyway, Ian, we're going to give you a second chance to hopefully the network is working this time.
Yeah,
how are you
good.
getting on?
Yeah, really good. I suppose with Ripples we're really busy. So our property thing, Gavin, we're quite young into it, so it's more of a sort of a hobby thing for me and Joe at the minute. We've a couple there already, and we're about, I'd say, another month away from raising capital to probably get another one or two. So, but we're quite relaxed about it. So,
are you finding
what happens? We're right now.
Are you finding the insights of all the different people in the group helping?
Yeah. No, we had a meeting with Philip last week, so he has to come back with us there. So that was really interesting.
Capital allowances.
Start gathering. Yeah. So it's good listening to groups. I'm picking up a lot of information as we go along. So as I said, our property thing, we're doing the long game, myself and Joe. Like, we're not going to touch anything for 10, 15 years. So it's quite relaxing on our side,
Yeah. Well, at least you have the trading business, and the options there to go and potentially do something through the pension might be the way to look at it, Well, look, I don't know if anyone, that was a full hour and a bit of just chatting about what everyone is individually doing. And there seems to be a lot of different insights. So I thought that was an interesting call. And there was a lot of people on that call. So it was good just to get insights from everybody. We'll see you guys in the near future. Take care. Have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Facade. If you enjoyed the show or found it in any way useful, could I please ask you to take a moment to leave a review over on iTunes or Spotify. This really helps us get the podcast out in front of more people. If you have any questions or topics you would like me to cover in future episodes, please connect with me via my brand new school community. You will find a link in the show notes. You can stay up to date with all of my content and the projects I'm working on by signing up for my weekly newsletter over on my website, gavinjgallagher.com. That's all for now. See you back here, same time next week.